Hey guys, thanks for coming to see the story tour. We're super excited that you guys are here. And I know there's several people online that are joining us. So thank you for joining us at See the Story Tour. We are in a unique time, a unique situation with COVID. But I can tell you just from that video that you guys just watched, ministry is still happening. Like, there are kids coming here. We have not, we've had to change things because of COVID, but we have not canceled anything. We have just replaced. And tonight you're going to hear a little bit about how we've replaced some things and how God is working through Youth for Christ Ministries here with our students. So my name is Beth Tukolsky. I am the community engagement coordinator. I get the privilege of putting these See the Story tours together and just sharing with you guys just what God is doing in and through the ministries of Youth for Christ. And so I just probably have one of the best jobs. I don't know, the staff would probably say they have the best jobs, but we all have great jobs here. We all love what we do. And I love being able to share with you guys just things that God is doing in the lives of students. And I'm just excited that you guys are here. I'm glad you guys are online as well, because tonight you're gonna have 3 tour stops where you're gonna get to hear a little bit from our juvenile justice ministry about that ministry. You're gonna hear a tour stop about campus life ministry and our parent life ministry as well. Typically in the past, we have had tours, See the Story tours at our youth detention center, Lancaster Youth Detention Center. And we have had, that's where we do our JJM, our juvenile justice program out there with the jail teams. We have done tours at See the Story tours at our Parent Life Ministry site, and that's where we do our pregnant and parenting teen ministry there. But because of COVID, welcome, come on in.
Sorry for mentioning.
No, you're good, come on in. But because of COVID, we're having it here tonight at our Campus Life House, and I can't think of a better place to have it, because this has been the busiest buzz hub of all time since COVID has hit. So I'm just super excited that you guys get to see this facility. And for those of you online, I just want to tell you a little bit about what we have here. We would love for you to come out anytime, anytime, really, literally, anytime to come see the facility. But we have a great facility here. We have a great big house. Kids come, the space that we're in right now is a club room. We do a lot of games and activities right here on this wood floor. Up there is a living room type space that we do a lot of more lessons and intimate time up there, depending on the number of kids, obviously, that we have here. Back behind us, we have a big game room where we have ping pong, we have pool table, and we have, is it skeet ball? What's that called?
Carpet ball.
What's it called?
Carpet
ball. Oh, carpet ball. It's called carpet ball, yeah. We have carpet ball and some tables, and back this way we have a huge kitchen that gets utilized. Kids love food, you know, who doesn't love food? So we do a coffee bar, we do a bunch of different foods for kids when they come, and we just hang out. We have this huge island. We love to hang around the island with students. And then also we have great space upstairs. I think you saw on the video some of the spaces upstairs utilized for small groups. So when we have large groups here, we like to break them down into smaller groups. So then we take some of the kids upstairs. There's a big window up here you can see, and it kind of overlooks the club room, but there's all kinds of spaces upstairs where we break out into small groups and have a little bit more one on 6 or 7 kids versus 1 on 40. So you can definitely get the kids to start talking in those small group times. So we're just so grateful for this place, for this house. Outside, we have a vast acreage of different activities. We have a baseball field that we can utilize where we can play kickball. We can utilize that however we see fit. Obviously, we do weird and crazy games with Campus Life, so that's kind of fun. We have large green spaces to do a lot of fun stuff. We have basketball courts. We have a sand volleyball court. We have Frisbee disc golf out there that we've actually opened up to the public, and people are coming during the day, which is kind of fun to have people come during the day as well. We have that. We have a big mud volleyball pit back behind, kind of back behind our basketball court, where we do a huge kickoff event in the fall for that, and that gets utilized. The other night we had kids out here for what they do. They did like a night games. So it was dark. Obviously it gets dark early. And so they're running around the acreage doing a night games. We utilized this last week for also a fall festival. And this was a busy, busy place. It is a busy, busy place. So this place gets used a lot, and we're just so grateful for this place. And so this is your first tour stop, is just to get to see this facility. So anytime we can get people out here to see this, we love it, because this is where a lot of ministry happens. And especially now during COVID, this is where a lot of ministry is happening. Before we jump into our See the Story tour, I want to introduce, we don't have a whole lot of staff here tonight, but I do want to introduce the few staff that we have. Over here, Shannon is she is one of our middle school site leaders. She does middle school at Moore Middle School and Lux Middle School. So she has her hands full with middle schoolers, and she's absolutely wonderful with them. She's in her second year, and her first year was awesome, but this year she's like taking it to town. Like, we didn't even know COVID hit, because Shannon's just coming up with all great ideas and doing an awesome job with those kids at those schools. Back in the corner is Brooke Fullerton. She is our parent life leader director. She joined us this spring, so right in the smack of COVID, which has been super hard for her because we are not allowed into schools. Typically, we're in schools, we get to be in schools, meet kids and contact kids and learn kids' names, but this year's different. This year's totally different. But I can tell you, you're gonna hear some awesome stories from Brooke tonight, because God's been good. She works with our pregnant and parenting teams, and there has been people calling our office just saying, please help. You know, we need someone to help. And Brooke has just totally stepped into that role and loved on several kids. It hasn't been a whole bunch of them, but she has been making a huge difference in the lives of some of these kids. And so I'm excited for her. You're gonna hear from her tonight. Super excited for you to hear from her. And then obviously Matt's running the sound back there. He is our executive director. That kind of just keeps us in motion with ministry and keeps us moving. So that's who's here tonight. And you'll get to hear from each of them. So I'm super excited for that. I just think that one of the things that I love about Youth for Christ is the fact that I am super excited about it, because I've been here 5 years and I have just seen kids' lives changed. And I'm super excited you guys are joining us online. I'm super excited you guys are here presently, because I hope this excitement, that this excitement is something that you get to hear tonight, not because of us, but because of what God's doing in the lives of kids. He's at work, and we need to celebrate that. And so I'm super excited that you guys get to hear that tonight. And so with that, I'm just going to turn it over to Matt and let him share a little bit of vision and maybe give you a little bit of updates of what's happening.
Good deal. Well, hey, like she said, thanks for coming. We're glad to have you guys all here, as well as a few people joining us online. Like she said, my name is Matt Schulke. I'm the executive director here. At Youth for Christ, really our hope is to reach kids who would not normally walk into the doors of the church. And I think you're going to see that today. You're going to see that we try, and even in today's environment, we're walking to places where kids who would not normally feel comfortable at church are, and developing a relationship with them, and at a minimum, giving them a chance to hear about God and make an informed decision about Him. But in our sweet spot, we really are relational. We really want to not only have them hear about God, but experience Jesus' love through a relationship with a staff member or a volunteer. And so that's really the core of who we are. But I want to share a few statistics with you. So a couple of years ago, there's a whole bunch of numbers. Go and pull most of those numbers. A couple of years ago, we went through and we said, all right, how many kids actually even live within 45 minutes of Lincoln? And can we figure out, are they even going to church programs? And we decided we're going to try. So we went through and we used public records and found there's 28,000 kids going to school here. That included parochial schools. Of those 28,000, 26,000 attend a public school. Then we called every youth group we could think of. We called every parachurch organization. We counted obviously ourselves, Young Life, City Impact. I got a misspelling in that one. We got to fix that one. We called the Rock, which is in Ashland, because we expanded. We said we want to be Lincoln, Norris, Waverly, Ashland, Malcolm Creek. So all those places. We called every single ministry we could come up with and said, how many kids are involved? And when we didn't get a number, we just kind of put our best estimate. And we tended to overestimate at times. I'm sure we underestimated other times, but we did our best. And we found that of those 26,000 kids on a weekly basis, on a regular basis, 4,000 kids are connected to a church program. Again, that includes City Impact, FCA, it includes youth groups, which is a lot, right? There's 4,000 kids. The one thing we were not able to measure was how many kids sit in a pew at church. Like that's just too hard to kind of estimate. So, but even if it was double that, 8,000, we look at it and we say, that means that there's 22,000 kids in Lincoln who are not connected to a church. Even if that was double, we'd still have 18,000 kids who are not connected in the church. And we saw that as, hey, we need more Youth for Christ, and we need more organizations like Youth for Christ. Sometimes churches look at us and they say, yeah, we've got a youth group. And we say, great, glad you got a youth group. There's still more. There's still an opportunity to reach kids. And so go ahead and go to the next slide. So as we think about that, over this last school year, we had 1,100 kids come once. It's a little different than that 4,000 number, and now we're including kids who came regularly enough that we had a Christ-sharing relationship with them. So last year we had, through the detention center ministry, through parenting, through campus, we had 1,100 kids come to our programs at least once. We had 98 volunteers. So we look at that and we go, man, that's great. It's awesome that we've got that many kids involved. But that number of kids that need to be reached is huge. And so we've got a hope. And it's the kind of hope that only God can make happen. But what would it take for us to reach another 1,000 kids? What would it take for us to go further and grow our ministry at our current sites, but also add new ministry sites? So as we kind of looked at 2025 in 5 years, this is what it would take. It would take to get 2,100 kids. We'd have to get 200 volunteers. We'd have to add 10 more staff members, which includes a mix of part and full-time. We would actually expand into 2 more detention centers. There's actually 3 juvenile detention centers in town. We'll come back to that later. We would add a parenting course option, and we'd add 6 more public schools that we're reaching. And we went through it and said, well, what's going to cost another $500,000 to do it? But we believe that there's a chance, there's a need, there's at least a need for us to get into more schools, get into more detention centers, and meet more kids. Go to the next one. So go back one. So the coronavirus obviously happened. We set that forward. And in March, everything hit the fan, spring break. And we actually had a pretty major, as everybody did, major impact on our ability to reach kids. We lost a whole quarter of the school year. We lost our summer camp opportunities. We lost many of our year-end gospel sharing events. And honestly, probably the way we felt it most was I'm not sure that depression is quite the word, because that depression has a really heavy term. But as I looked at our staff, they were really, we hire staff that want to be with kids. We hire staff that live to share the gospel. And we lost that opportunity for a whole quarter. And it really weighed heavy on our staff. Luckily, we were able to, and currently LPS is not letting any volunteers into schools. And so we have adapted. Beth mentioned on Tuesday, we went into Lux and Moore middle schools, 2 middle schools close by. We pick kids up in vans and we bring them here. And we mostly are outside. We actually had campfires going outside, and we were roasting s'mores for an after-school snack. It was great. And this week, we actually had a fun special guest. Governor Ricketts came to Campus Life on Tuesday. And so he sat right here, and I got him to play a game with us. And then afterwards, he talked for a few minutes about how faith inspires him and where he is. And then he took questions from kids, and let's just say there's some interesting questions. But he was a very good sport, and he spent an hour here. I mean, how cool is that? The governor spending an hour at a youth center like this with kids. So we're continuing to do ministry. It does look a little bit different. The other major impact that the coronavirus has actually had, like I mentioned, was our staff feeling the burden of not being able to connect the kids, but also it really messed with our staff recruitment season. We're always trying to hire staff, and a lot of times that happens at the end of school year as kids are graduating college, or that's just kind of a time of year when people look around. And so we actually did not get a chance to hire a new staff member this last summer. We were really hoping to hire 3 or 4. And so I'm not sure if we could have gotten 4, but that would have been great if we could have. So that's been kind of the major impact, has been our limited ability to reach kids, but we're doing everything we can to make sure it happens. Our kind of loss of a staff recruitment season, but we're seeing some kids that are walking in the doors that would never come to church. And we'll share a few more of those with you. I think that's my last slide. This is a slide that kind of shows the number of kids. So this was actually last school year's number. I should have had not that 1,100, but we actually had 856 kids last year who came once. These numbers are down from the 1,100 you saw earlier. Of those 856, we saw 552 come regularly, that we knew their name, and we could at least make some sort of estimate of where they stood spiritually. So we call that a conversational relationship. And of those 552 kids, 397 of them were, in our best estimate, lost kids. Kids who are not connected to a church, don't have an active faith in Jesus Christ. Whether they're in jail or in the delivery room, walking the hallway of school. And then last year, we actually did have those still, despite that, we had 78 kids make a faith commitment to Jesus last year, which is pretty amazing. And that's just, when we love to get together as a staff, and every once in a while we put candles on the table and we light a candle for each kid that said yes to Jesus, and we spend some time praying over them, thinking about how do we help them continue in a discipleship relationship and get them connected to a church. And so that's just a little bit of overview of who we are, but we see in Lincoln the need to reach more kids. And that's part of the reason why, the opportunity to reach more kids. And our hope is that God will bless us and make that happen. And part of that is sharing the story with you guys to say, how can we do this? So the way Beth mentioned it real briefly, but kind of operationally, the way we do it is that we have Youth for Christ has 3 different ministries, and that's what you're going to hear about. Go to the next screen. We have Campus Life, which reaches kids based on their campus. So in that case, as Beth said earlier, Shannon is like a missionary to a certain middle school or high school. So it's based on campus. Parent Life is for pregnant and parenting teens, which we've seen some real need there. You'll hear from Brooke. And then Juvenile Justice is for kids in jail. And so that's where we'll go. And I think next up, we've got Shannon is going to come up and share with you a little bit more
the Zoom people need a
Okay.
I don't know who needed it, but we sent someone the YouTube streaming stuff.
Hello, I am Shannon. I think Matt already said that. I actually have the best job in the world because I get to be what I like to call like an adult middle schooler, or when someone walks up there and they're like, who's in charge? And they see me, they're like, never expecting it. Like, I'm the one in charge of the chaos. If you need something, come talk to me. But pretty much what I get to do is I get to be a mentor. I get to love on and walk through life with middle school kids. And I have I call her my protege. She's with me here today. If I have it my way, she's going to be the next youth pastor when she graduates in a couple of years. But yeah, what we do is we have club with kids. We really emphasize small groups. We have a small group called what?
Cats and Coffee.
Cats and Coffee, yes. And we just do life with them. And Devea she'll tell you about her story in a minute here, but she is kind of a full circle story, and she's pretty special in that. But she's helping me now. So she's like my number 2 in command, and I'm trying to teach her how to love on middle schoolers even though they're frustrating. So, yeah, that's what we do. What you might not know about middle schoolers is you might think, okay, Shannon, this is South Lincoln. It's pretty affluent. Are they really that struggling? Like, come on, what neighborhood are you in? So, yes, that is a myth that people think, middle schoolers in this part of town at Lux and Moore, probably the 2 nicest middle schools in Lincoln, that they already know Jesus, that they're in a church youth group, they are good to go, check the box, move on to somebody else. But that is a huge lie. In fact, I sat down right here in this very spot last year with a girl who on the outside, you would say, man, she's got it all. Look at that sweater. She looks so cozy and warm. I know the house she lives in down the street, check the box. She's all good. And she sat bawling, tears running down her face, telling me about the brokenness in her family, telling me about the brokenness in her life. And, I cried with her, and I told her about Jesus and how he's the giver of peace. He's the healer. He's the one who takes all that pain. And I think we all understand that right now, more than ever, the epidemic is actually mental health. Like, we have a pandemic, but the epidemic is mental health and just the feelings that people are having. It's at an all-time low. Suicide rates are at an all-time high. And so now more than ever, kids need to be kids. They need to be around other kids. They need to be running outside, chasing each other. They need to be roasting s'mores. They need to be doing what kids do. And they desperately need each other, and they desperately need someone to be a role model for them and step up and be that voice that says, hey, I know your life's really crazy. I know your emotions go like this all day long. And you know what? It's okay. And I'm going to help you get through it. And so that's what I get to do. And like I said, it's the coolest job in the world. We had a fall festival last week. There was 52 middle schoolers out here running amok. We watched Hocus Pocus. And it was a blast. It was so great. So that is kind of what I do. I'm going to let Devea tell a little bit about her story and how it's come full circle and what she does now.
Okay, so as she said, I'm Devea. I'm a freshman at East this year, and I think I started going to church when I was super young because basically I was in like a CPS sort of situation. My parents weren't in the picture for part of it, and it was a messy situation. So at the time, I didn't have a relationship with my dad. My mom was a single mother with essentially 3 kids. And so I had a mentor at the time, and she took me to the Wednesday youth service at Christ Place. And Matt was saying earlier, you couldn't calculate the number of kids sitting in a pew as opposed to people that actually had a relationship with Christ. And I mean, that was definitely me. I'm going to be honest, they had snacks there, and that was kind of my main motivation for showing up. Because I just sat in the back and I played on my phone and stuff. And I had father issues. I mean, I was super broken. I mean, but as Shannon was saying, like, I went to church every Wednesday. It was a ritual. I did it every Wednesday. And, I did grades I still have holidays and stuff. High school's kind of hard though, so might change. But you know, you check the box and move on. But you know, I was really broken. I still had a bunch of family issues. My sister who still wanted to be with my dad and stuff like that. But yeah, so I originally met Shannon through our Cats and Coffee group. I'm wearing the merch right there in that picture.
Yeah.
I should have brought it, but so that was super cool. Basically, we met at church. It was the Wednesday group. And yeah, so I went to the Cats and Coffee group Tuesdays. We would go to the cat house and we would pet cats, and then we go to Starbucks, and we'd have like a Bible study. And it was super cool, and you know, that became my thing. It was really helpful because as opposed to the big church group where everybody sat, like did church, this was a small group, and it really helped me because I could talk to her about stuff, we could have discussions. So that was pretty cool. And then after that, I got involved in more stuff. I started going to the events. I started going to campus life at my school, which I had originally stopped going to because the kids there were not very nice. I got bullied at one of the fun events and I never came back. But yeah, so as I said before, I'm a freshman, so I don't really fit into the middle school thing anymore. But the group that I originally started in 6th grade, Cats and Coffee, I am now a leader at. So that's cool. Yeah, it happens right here actually. My room meets in there because the game room is the coolest room. I help at the campus life event on Tuesdays. I still go to the youth thing on Wednesdays, but yeah, I think it's really cool. This Youth for Christ has definitely done a lot for me, especially like I was super shy a lot in 6th grade and 7th grade. I didn't talk to anybody. When I originally met Shannon, when she tried to approach me at church, I didn't talk to her words. She was like, "Hey, how's your night going?" I was like, "Yeah." There wasn't a lot of conversation, but so not only has it helped me in a spiritual way where it's like I now have a relationship with God and I know what I can turn to, but it's helped me in a lot of other ways. Like 2 years ago, I wouldn't be able to come up here and speak to you guys like this, and I wouldn't be able to come out and reach the kids because, again, as I said, I got bullied, so I was mean to everybody. That was my thing. I would stomp on your feet. Combat boots still work. These aren't the same combat boots. I don't step on people anymore. They just look cool. So yeah, it's definitely helped me emotionally and socially, and it's definitely strengthened my relationship with God. It actually kind of started it. So pretty cool stuff.
Yeah. When I say I've like watched her, like she was so closed off, I was like extra like blah, 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 like you know, like craziness, and she was like no. But I watched her over the past like 2-ish years just like blossom into this beautiful rose that just is completely amazing, and God's just working in her life, and I see that, and He's letting her be used, you know, to help other kids, and it's amazing. And she's even reaching her own friend group, and I'm gonna brag on her because she probably would brag on herself like that, but you know, it was like the biggest treasure in my life. Like I don't even consider her a student anymore. She's one of my friends. I would hang out with her even if it wasn't my job. And we do hang out. So, you know, it just becomes family, and that's what campus life is. We're a family with our kids. We walk through life with them, and we will. Well, it's not going to end if I leave or if she moves. It doesn't matter. Like, we're in it for life. So that's the relationship that we have with students, and it's really, really cool. So what we need, really, what we're like striving for is, you know, we need help. I can only be like this close to maybe maximum 10 kids, but we need other people to like get in those relationships. So I don't know if you're here tonight and you're like, hey, I don't know if I can be used by God, but she definitely didn't think she could be used by God, and God's totally using her. So if that interests you at all, like come talk to me. I'd love to like train you or teach you my ways or help you, you know, have that relationship with a kid. Sometimes it only takes one to make a huge difference and a huge impact. And so that's like one of our highest needs is just people to do what we do and to walk with kids and sit with them and listen to them and be that person in their life. So that's campus life.
I love having Devea around. She tells me what to do sometimes, so she's good at that.
You need it sometimes.
But Campus Life is probably our biggest, most well-known program. Currently, we have Campus Life. I mentioned we've lost a few sites because of staffing, but we've got Lux, Moore Middle School, Mickle Middle School, and Norris Middle School. Then we're also at Norris High School, Lincoln East High School, and then Ashland High School and Middle School. I think I got them all. And so in the past 18 months, we've also been at Lincoln High. We've also been at Southeast. We've also been at, there's a couple of middle schools we've been at in recent years too. So we really love to get back into the schools. And it turns out Lincoln keeps building high schools. So we gotta catch up before these next two get built. The next ministry I'd like to talk to you about is called Juvenile Justice Ministry. 10 years ago when I came to Youth for Christ, I found out that there was a detention center in town, and right away said, hey, why aren't we there meeting kids? And so Nathan Kroll took us on the journey of getting us into the detention center to meet kids. There's actually the main detention center where most kids end up at here. There's quite a bit of turnover, but of the kids that land in detention center here in Lincoln, 72% of them don't get a single visitor. Can you imagine that? Being 15 years old, ending up in jail, and not no mom, no teacher, no principal comes to even visit you. When I first walked into the detention center, I will admit that I looked down my nose and I thought to myself, how the heck can these kids end up here? It's not that hard to follow the law. Like, that's really the way I felt. But as I got to know kids and realized and saw the reality of these kids' home lives, where 72% of them don't even get a visitor, I realized this is much deeper than just follow the law. And through that experience, we've had the chance to where Eldon is in there. He is literally in there every day at 3:30, except today. He's actually visiting his son today. But 6 days a week at 3:30, Eldon walks into the detention center to meet kids. We're very blessed that we, years ago, created a contract with the county, a non-financial contract, but that classifies Eldon as a staff member. So even throughout this whole coronavirus thing, he's been in there pretty much every week. There's been a couple weeks when they've had a case of kids and we can't get in, but he continues to go in every single day. Unfortunately, we can't get our volunteers, and we have a large group of volunteers that are willing to meet with kids as well. But so I looked at the detention center, honestly, with judgment in my heart, and God has really softened my heart and realized these are deep, hard stories that we can be a part of. And I hope that over time we can continue to see it takes a long time for life change with these kids. In the last 9 months, you may not know this, but they've moved 2 detention centers to Lincoln. You may have caught this in the news. I noticed it because I know, but the Geneva Girls Home shut down, and they moved all those kids to Kearney. And then they realized we got too many kids in Kearney, so they moved the kids with the deepest needs to Lincoln. And so now the detention center is actually split into 2, the detention center and then what's called YRTC, Youth Rehabilitation Treatment Center. So those kids are in the juvenile system. Then this week, they shut down the Hastings Regional Center and are moving all the Hastings Regional Center boys to Lincoln, and they're going to be in Whitehall. They are a part of the adult penitentiary system, so they're in a second facility. So literally, in the last 9 months, we have gained 2 detention centers in town. I don't even know exactly what the numbers are right now because they're still moving some kids from Hastings. They haven't made the full transition. But it's pretty safe to say that within the next few months, there's going to be over 60 kids, 60 teens in jail in Lincoln every single night. And we get the chance, hopefully, we've got agreements with 2 of those facilities, and hopefully we'll get an agreement with the Hastings one to start meeting kids. But there's a huge opportunity to meet kids and help set them free. So I got just a little video to
Everything about this place says permanent. From the stone walls to the barred windows and razor wire, there's a clear message. No one leaves this place. It's hard to imagine making your home in a place like this, and it's even harder to imagine finding hope. But that is exactly what we've been called to do, to preach hope to the hopeless. When I walk through correctional facilities, I don't see those who are guards and those who are inmates. I see those who are free and those who are not. I've never done a day in jail, but for the first part of my life, like these kids, I was not free. I was a prisoner to sin and death, and everything about my life sent a clear message. He will never change. This is permanent. And for a long time, I believed that that was my reality. But at the lowest point, in the confinement of my soul, Jesus found me. And what's amazing is that what seems so permanent turned out to only be the first part of my story. I met the one who has the keys to my prison. When I needed Jesus the most, he found me and he set me free. And now I go back to those who still don't have freedom, to share the good news. That's what juvenile justice is about. We go to set teens free. If you've ever been in prison, you might know the joy of being released. But the joy of the gospel is the freedom of our souls. And when they need Jesus the most, we'll be there. And in their lives, just as in ours, we can say it is for freedom that Christ set us free.
Yes, JJM. So hi guys, thanks for coming tonight. I'm Brooke and I am the new parent life director and it's super, super exciting. I will try not to cry. I will say I cry a lot and it's still my prayer to God to what breaks his heart to break mine, right? Like I cried in my interview. I think Matt was like, what are you doing? This is weird. But we have such an incredible blessing to work with the kids and I just love what I do with Parent Life. So there are 4 high schools here in Lincoln: Northeast, North Star, Lincoln High, and Bryan Community Learning Center that have daycares. So if you are a teenager and you go to one of those schools and you have a baby, or even if you're pregnant, you can bring your baby to that daycare as long as you take the parenting class, which is a really great opportunity for the school to teach the kids, right? A lot of the dads take it too, which to me just kind of blew my mind at first. Like sometimes once we come back after Christmas break, there's a whole new bunch of people in the class. There's a lot of dads in there. A lot of girls have pregnancy tests. Obviously with COVID, the classes are pretty full. There's a lot of pregnant kids. I think we have about 35 on the class rosters that come to class right now. And that's not including Brian yet. We're still working out those details of getting those girls to come to class. But what I get to do is, especially now COVID, is I get to zoom into those classrooms. So once a week, we have discussions. We aren't price sharing in the classroom because it's a public school, but I get to zoom in there and really get to know those girls. We talk about fear. We talk about conflict. We talk about love language. We talk about all kinds of different relationship things, because a lot of them, that's just really their issue is relationships and knowing their value. They don't have a lot of good relationships modeled in their lives. So it's just a great opportunity for us to be in there, to speak to them, to get to know them, to build relationships. And then what we do on Tuesday nights at Cross the Line Church in North Lincoln is we have, it's kind of like a club that we have people bring in meals, or we get pizza right now because of COVID. But girls can come, their moms can come, friends. Most of the time it's just girls with their babies. And then we have volunteers that bring meals and watch the babies. And so we have kind of a family meal setting like this. just model them, let them get to know people. A lot of those moms tell me they really just want a friend, like all their friends that they had before they got pregnant or had a baby, do a lot of partying, smoking, drinking. They're really not into that scene anymore. So what they really want to do is meet somebody their own age, their own life cycle that has kids, and just hang out with them and be kids too. So I think a really common myth with pregnant teens is that they just really don't care. They just want to party, have fun. And I cannot tell you how that cannot be further from the truth. These girls, almost every girl says they don't want to have an epidural when they go into labor. I think that's crazy because I definitely would want to, but they want to go natural. They want what's best for their baby. Most of them, in fact, I don't know a single one that I've had yet, and we had a lot of babies over the summer, that's not breastfeeding, almost 100%. The girl that I talked to at Northeast, she just brought her baby back to the daycare 2 weeks ago, and they just text her when the baby needs to be fed. I'm like, well, how's the bottle feeding going? And she's like, oh, I don't do that. She just texts me and I come down. So, I mean, that's like incredible dedication from these teen girls. One mom, I'm super excited, you guys, because today is Patience Monet's birthday. She was born at 3 o'clock this afternoon. She's adorable. One of my moms that actually I share with Eldon, both her and her, the father of the baby have been in juvenile detention. The father is still on house arrest. And in fact, on Monday, when they bring the baby home, they will both be on house arrest with the baby. But luckily, the baby wasn't born in jail like we thought she was going to be. So the courts kind of worked that out. But she's a precious, precious baby, 5 pounds, 8 ounces, born by emergency C-section today. And it's just been such a pleasure to walk alongside the mom, to walk alongside Cody. We went to dinner Monday night and just really help them. A lot of the times the parent life help is a tangible way. And sometimes that's a little bit different than some of our other ministries. But I think of Jesus, right? Like he didn't send everyone home to get dinner, right? He said, hey, let's feed them here. Sometimes we just have to meet that need. There are moms over the summer that needed air conditioners. There are moms that need car seats, diapers, sun products. Like there's just a lot of needs that we have for parent life. So, but the main need is to mentor these girls. And it's crazy to me that they want to hang out with me. Like I'm 45 years old. They say, let's go to the pumpkin patch. I really want to go with you. And like, why with me? Like, but they do. They just really crave that adult mentorship in their life and just that common, like solid advice, that solid, hey, I'm proud of you. You did great. You can do it. It's just crazy that they want that. And they really need that. So it's been an absolute pleasure. And if anyone's interested in coming alongside girls and dads, like my vision for parent life in the coming years to really get the dads involved. I'd love to have guys that help them change oil or tires or do woodworking stuff or just play basketball with them or go play paintball or something. So I would love to have that. That's really common too. So that's parent life, guys.
Yeah. Thanks, Brooke.
Thanks for joining us online. I'm sorry for some of you that didn't get on right away. So thanks for popping on. I know it's late, but you've heard a couple of great testimonies from some students from Devea and Shannon from Campus Life and Brooke from Parent Life. These kids, this is real, guys. These are kids. These are real people. And I just get so emotional about it because I've been here 5 years. And I've actually gotten to do all 3 ministries. I have gone into the school and taught a parenting class and saw these kids and these moms in the classroom and these moms that want to learn. And yeah, you know, they're doing their very, very best. And I've also been out in the detention center with kids, and those kids, just teaching some life lessons to those kids and doing campus life with those kids. You know what? These kids are hungry. These kids are so hungry for attention and they're hungry for love. And so the moment we pass Jesus' love on to them, it's like, what is that? You know, I've not had that before. I want that. And that's how Brooke makes her connections. That's how Shannon makes her connection, and every Campus Life staff. When we just go and love on kids, that connection happens because they're not getting it at home, or they're not feeling it, or they don't feel worthy, or we don't know their home life. Like, we just don't know where they came from. So it's just a super privilege and honor to be a part of this ministry. I love this ministry. I have been a part of it for 5 years now, and I am a huge fan. I don't think they'll get rid of me, probably. And even if they did get rid of me, I would still give to this ministry because it is so valuable and so important, because there's so many kids. Matt went through some statistics with you guys tonight, and there's still just a huge, huge need. We have a small staff, and in order for us to reach more kids, we want to bring more staff on. My prayer is that we would have a staff member in every school, every middle school, and every high school in Lincoln, because there are so many kids that need to hear the love that Jesus has for them, and they need to feel it. You know, they need to actually feel it. And that comes from a relationship, that comes from someone investing in them and caring about them. And so you've heard a lot tonight. It's just a really quick glimpse of who we are and what we do. There's so much more, and we can tell you so many more stories. And we would love to be able to do that. I would love to be able to do that. So if that's something where you'd like to take more time, please holler at any of us. We would love to share more stories with you. In front of you, I set a book out in front of you. And for those of you that are home, hopefully you'll be getting this in a PDF through your email. But there is this book. It's called See the Story Book right here. It's in front of you. And we already talked a lot about the ministries. So we have Parent Life, Campus Life, and Juvenile Justice Ministries. It's just for you to take home and read. There's more statistics in there that you can read about those ministries. We just didn't want to keep you extra long, so those are some things that you can read on. But I'd like to have you turn to that Get Involved page. It's the second to the last page in your book. And I'd like to just go through that with you because we are a small staff, and there are hundreds, literally hundreds of kids that we need to reach. We obviously can't do it alone. So we've mentioned the need for volunteers. There's right now with COVID, there's a lot of areas we can't get into, but there's still a need. We still need a few volunteers. I know Adam, our site leader for Nickel and Northeast Campus Life, needs help yet. So he's looking for staff or for more volunteers to help him with his clubs. And so there is a need for some volunteers that way. But as we go through this, there's just several ways that you guys can get involved. If you feel like this is something that has touched your heart or want to be more involved with Campus Life, these are just some practical ways that you can get involved. You can share the story. You can tell people about the YFC ministries. You can invite others to See the Story tours. We actually can take the See the Story tour on the road. If you have a small group or a church group that you're involved in, and you would love to share what we do with them, we would love to be able to do that. So share the story. We can bring it to your work. You can host it at your own home. We can host it here for you. There's just lots of different ways where we would love to share the story more and more and more with more people. Because this is God at work, and we want people to see God at work. We want you guys to be a part of what God is doing. And it's exciting. And the more people we get on board with it, the more excitement happens and the more kids are reached. So the other thing is Be the Story. Obviously, we love our people that just totally will be committed to pray for our organization. We have staff members that need showered in prayer. We have kids that need showered in prayer. There are so many times when we meet kids that we just, as staff members, just have to pray before we meet them because we don't know what we're going to say. I've met a student that I just happened to text one morning, and I just said, thinking of you, hope school goes well. Instantly got a text back from her, and she said, my dad just committed suicide last night. What do you say to that? That's what we do. We don't know what to say. So that's where we just get on our knees, we pray, and we go and sit with these kids. She was in my lap for probably about 4 hours while people were buzzing in and out of her house until some friends came around and then kind of loved on her through some of her friends. But that's what we do. We are here for kids. We are here to be there to walk through whatever they're walking through. Whether they're pregnant, we've had staff members that literally helped to deliver a baby on the way up in the elevator to a delivery room. Our staff members were with this teen parent. And we have had students, we've had one student just this year that attempted suicide. And so we've had a staff member totally walking alongside that student and his family, coming around him. So there is so many kids out there that in any instant, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know, but we need to be prepared. And the only way we're prepared is by just being on our knees and praying for these kids and helping God, asking God to give us wisdom on how to handle that. So prayer warriors, huge. Volunteers are huge. You can see in there that there's different areas where you can be involved with our 3 different ministries. And then the last one is write the story. Obviously, we're all missionaries. This is a mission field, and we are a nonprofit. So we only count on people and churches to come around us to help us do ministry, to help move the ministry forward. And so we want people to recognize what we do. That's one reason we share with you what we do, so that you can see the work that's being done. And we want you to have the blessing in that as well. So if that's something that God lays on your heart, we would love to have you join us in that way too. But those are just some different ways that you can get involved. We actually have other ways too. And I can share more ways with you. I actually have, if you're here representing a church, I know Mike, you are, but if you're here representing a church, I have a document that has some different ways that churches can get involved. Churches are a huge help to us when we look for staff, when we look for interns. We want solid people here because our people are going to be witnesses to lost people. And so we want solid Christians to come into our organization. And so we go to churches, and churches help us find people to come on staff. And if any of you know people, young people that would be willing and are interested in youth ministry, please share the story. Share the story with them of who we are and what we do, and give them our information. So I wanted to share that. If God lays something on your heart and that you want to get involved in, awesome, great. The one thing I would like for you guys to do on the next page over is just an information page where I would love your contact information. And if there is an area where you feel like you might want to get involved, or if you want more information, or if you have questions about a ministry, jot that down. I will be in contact with you in a few days just to see what you thought about See the Story. We always like feedback on how we can make it better and what we can do and to answer any questions that you guys might have as well. So if you can fill out that last page of the book, and I think online it's emailed to you. So if you can fill that out on your email and send it back to Matt, that would be awesome. And I will get in contact with you guys as well. So I'll give you a second to fill that out. But I just want to say thank you for coming tonight. Matt's going to close us out with just a few words. But I love this ministry. I'm super excited about what's happening. We actually have a comedy night coming up. I think I put this on your under your table too, this comedy night invite. This is our big annual fundraiser, and it's coming up. So if that's something you would like to come to, you'll hear more stories, student stories of impact at the comedy night. Plus, it's a ton of fun. So feel free to come to that as well. And I think that's all I have, and I'll let Matt wrap this up. Thanks, guys.
If I could get you guys to remember 3 numbers from tonight, here would be the numbers. And they're kind of random numbers, but you'll remember them tonight. 22,000. 22,000 kids not connected to a church program within a 45-minute drive away. That's a ton. 22,000. 136 babies born to teenagers in Lancaster County last year. 72% of kids in jail don't get a single visitor. And we can have an impact on those. Can we reach all 22,000? I sure hope we can figure out a way at some point. Probably not realistic. We can have an impact. If we could grow to just impact another 1,000 more kids, that'd be 1,000 more kids potentially walking into the throne room with us at the end of life, right? I'd love to make that happen. Beth mentioned this, I think, real briefly, but she's going to follow up with some of you guys over the next week and just see if there's a way you want to get involved. If you want to be involved in helping network by bringing people to event, by giving, by volunteering, we desperately need more people. And so we'd love to have you engage however is appropriate for you guys. Thank you so much for coming. Actually, let me close this in prayer.
Great.
Lord God, as we think about kids who don't get a chance to hear about you, Lord, my heart breaks and our heart breaks, Lord. God, but I just ask that you would somehow use us to advance your kingdom. Lord, I pray for our staff, that you would give them your strength. I pray for the volunteers, that you would just fill them with your love. Lord God, and I thank you for the blessing that we have from the administration in these places to continue to connect with kids, Lord. May that just continue to happen. Lord, we just love you and we commit our lives to you. In your powerful name we pray. Amen.